Hello, my name is Jesse Ward, and I have just got back from Guerrilla Business School, where I saw you, Brendan Burchard, speak, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. It was absolutely phenomenal, and I can't even express the amount of transformation that I'm going through right now. When I was growing up, I was essentially raised by my mother and my grandmother. My father was in and out of the picture, but mostly out of the picture, to the point where he would be getting thrown in and out of jail, mostly on parole violations. And when the California Three Strikes law came out, he decided to move to out of state, to Tennessee, where his family lives, so he wouldn't get sent up to San Quentin for 30 years. So my mom and I lived with Grandma for a while until we moved to Santa Cruz. In Santa Cruz, things changed for me. I kind of fell into skateboarding and then eventually into drinking and smoking pot, which was, it was fun while it lasted. But at the same time, I didn't really know where I was going. Things started just slowing down. It was just like the lazy spiral, gaining more and more bad habits. And when I graduated high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went out, feeling like I needed some sort of a fatherly influence. I went out to visit my father, who was out in Tennessee with his, common law wife. And I started listening to these old tapes that he had and watching movies, the Beatles movies. And as I watched those movies and listened to the music of this old rock and roll, I began to transform. And I remember that I suddenly came to the realization that what I wanted to do was perform and play guitar. So I began to play, first we drove out to see Bob Dylan play in Asheville, North Carolina, and just after that I had this dream where Bob Dylan walks up to me, says nothing at all, and hands me his guitar, a Fender Stratocaster, beautiful guitar, well used. And I asked him to sign it, and he said no. Just shook his head and walked away. But I remember starting to sit down and play the guitar. And after that, I started playing guitar, and I was getting, progressing quickly. I had heart. I would just sit in my room and play. I knew that I would be somebody. I knew that I would surpass my teachers. And I knew that I wanted to be a performer. And I kept playing, and eventually I discovered the cello. And I picked up the cello, and it was just like, that was it. I felt the embrace. It was warm and comforting, and I began to play the cello. I found a teacher who's my dear heart teacher, Karen, and I began to play, and somewhere I got this idea that I'd be a professional cellist. I'm not sure if it was my own idea or if it was the idea of my teachers, and I kept pursuing that, and I decided to transfer, and I transferred to San Francisco State. And there was just so many things that I didn't understand about performing and about being in that kind of world. And my teacher there, he had so much to offer, yet his delivery of the offering was just in one way, the way he knew how, and it just clashed with mine. And I'd started growing so much anxiety, so much discord with the way that things were going, that I started having panic attacks. And I was always reading spiritual books, reading Gurdjieff, reading Rajneesh, these amazing spiritual teachers who were telling me about these mind expanding, mind altering concepts that caused me to look around and realize, wow, everybody's asleep. What's going on? Who are these people, and what did they not realize what else there is out there? And I took a class from the holistic health department at San Francisco State. I was living with my grandmother, who was 95 years old and had Alzheimer's, and it was just me and her. And I loved her so dearly. I still love her. Rest her soul, she's passed on. And in that meditation class, I discovered hypnosis, and it just resonated so deeply with me that the unconscious mind, or that construct that we use as hypnotists, was the place where all of these habits and tendencies were held. So I started studying that, and I got further and further away from the cello, and because I had to leave it go there, because I wasn't working for me. It was too grinding, too discordant. And from that point on, at about the same time I discovered Think and Grow Rich, and from that point on I just started growing, and one thing led to another. I was certified in hypnosis with an amazing master teacher. I started studying the law of attraction and found myself in a Millionaire Mind intensive, realizing, wow, this is amazing stuff. And from that point, I invested in the Quantum Step program, which led me to Guerrilla Business School.